Now in the next case, all we are going to do, we are going to discuss on some particular measuring units. As we have seen here that 1000 peaks, px, that means it is the short form of pixel, and pixel is the smallest unit that is being used in case of CSS or graphic design or this sort of thing. Now this is practically an absolute length. You are confining your elements into a very particular value such as this 1000 peaks, or if you provide here 1200 peaks, then it will be 1200 peaks. So all those things are known as absolute value because you are restraining your values into a particular dimension. We have restricted our mother wrapper here into this particular dimension of 1000 peaks. Now let's talk about relative unit. In the older responsive web design cases, we have used a lot of this value, which is known as percentage. If we now get back to our project and reload, now we can see that the content of mother wrapper, it is now practically occupying the whole device width over here. There won't be any problem if you just reduce the size of this particular browser or increase it as long as you want. Still you can see that all those elements, those are practically obeying this percentage value. They will be acting accordingly. They will be either stretched or they will be narrowed down according to this browser condition. So if we now provide here this particular percentage value, and instead of this pixel format here for this test box 1, if we provide here for say 70%, and for this test box 2 for say 90%, save it, get back to our project, and if we reload, then we can see that this will be the output. Once again, if we just narrow it down or if we just stretch it on, we can see that both the boxes along with its parent div, they are shrinking down accordingly or shrinking up in accordance. This value of percentage is dependent on the device width. Now the problem is that the percentage value is practically dependent on the immediate wrapper which is containing it. So if we provide a 70% of value for this yellow box and 90% value to this blue box, that means this percentage is in accordance to the 100% of this red box. If instead of 100% to the mother wrapper, we provide here 95%, for say, get back to your project and reload, and you can see that this is a 90% with mother wrapper. Now if we shrink it down, then we can see that the boxes are working in accordance to the red box. See over here yourself, when we are shrinking it, these two boxes, this yellow box and this blue box, both of them are shrinking accordingly because these two boxes practically relative to this mother wrapper only. So in some cases it could be fruitful or it may miss some display features. In the next case, if instead of 95%, now all we are doing, we are just removing this percentage value with this V width. That means this viewport width. So this is another unit which practically considers the 1% of your device width. So if we talk here about this 100 VW condition, that means it is practically taking up this whole device width. And in the similar fashion, if we just press Ctrl S and get back to our project and reload, and now we can see that it is practically occupying the whole device width, and if we shrink it down, we can see that it is acting accordingly. On the other hand, if instead of peaks here, if we use here 100 VH, reload, get back to your project, and you can see that the mother wrapper is now practically covering the whole device width over here. And if we press Ctrl minus, we can see that the boxes are getting smaller. We are zooming out practically into our browser, and we can see that the whole page is, but the whole mother container is now covering this whole page. So press Ctrl 0 to fit into the window. Now the situation is, if we place here for say 100%, there goes the 100%. And here, instead of this percent for this child elements, instead of percentage value, if we provide here viewport width, and here too, in case of this test box 2, we are providing here VW. Press Ctrl S, get back to your project, reload. Now one thing that should be considered as an alarming thing, if we shrink it down now, we can see that a horizontal scroller is appearing in case of lower display device width. So why this is happening? Now one possible reason that lies behind is that we have created a padding here. Now the problem is what we have done over here. We have announced that the child element text box 1, it should be at a width of 70 viewport width. This is the point that I need to focus, that we have used a width of 70 VW and another width of 90 VW in case of this child element text box 1 and text box 2. But on the other hand, the main wrapping div that we have used over here previously, mother wrapper, we have provided there a percentage value. That means this mother wrapper, it will be dependent upon the width of the device 100%. But on the other hand, we have provided here a width of 70 viewport to this particular text box 1. That means in this particular case, it will be attaining a total valuation of 70 viewport width, leaving a padding of 50 pixels from the left. And this will be applied for both of these boxes, as both of them are child element. That is why in doing so, this horizontal scroller appears as it goes out of the bond of the mother wrapper, the width of which is dependent upon the device, as it is subjected to a 100% device width. But in case of these child elements, those are subjected to a width of the viewport. They are practically related to the viewport width. So that is why in case of using this viewport width, it is practically using the whole of this device width as a whole. That is why it is now getting out of the bond of this mother wrapper, out of the bond of this viewport. So this is why we will be applying this viewport width to the mother wrapper, and in case of our sibling elements, we will be using this percentage values. Now if we just get back to our project and reload, and now we can see that the mother wrapper, which is subjected to a 100% viewport width, it is practically providing you with a proper device width now. And in case of its child elements, which are subjected to a percentage value, the width of this child elements, those are practically dependent on the width of this mother wrapper, and that is why they are adjusting their width relative to the size of this mother wrapper. And that is why they are now exactly resizing themselves in accordance to the properties provided to each individual classes used here. If we now switch on to our desktop preview, we can see that this will be the exact scenario. And this is the exact difference between a viewport width and a percentage value. In case of viewport width, it is practically relative to the total available viewport width present at the time. On the other hand, percentage value, this is also relevant in this particular case to the width of the device, but on the other hand, it will consume up the whole available device width without any provision subjected to its other properties. So that's it for today's tutorial. Hope you guys have liked this tutorial. If you guys have liked this tutorial, then do not hesitate to hit that red subscribe button down below. Hope to see you guys in our next tutorial. Till then, bye.